Velkommen og god aften. I'll do this in English. So welcome to this night's seminar with Satsang with Satri and his wife Satchamai. On behalf of New Dharma and the team in Copenhagen and Sweden, I'd like to welcome you all. And just to say that you have the possibility afterwards to sign up for tomorrow or the intensive on Sunday if you should have appetite for more after this. So enjoy your evening.
All right, let me see if I'm on. All right.
I think you're on.
Okay, so welcome.
And Satri, talking to hitting the mic into the
Camera.
camera, say hi to the people.
Okay, I'll do it this way, that way. Welcome. 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 Welcome to all you in Netherlands. That's the camera. Welcome. 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 And namaste to you all.
Namaste. And hello, Rasmus. And Stella, there's a child's book that's called Where's Waldo? Well, it's now Where's Stella? It pops up everywhere. It's great to see you again. Okay.
Okay.
I'll let you carry it on.
So I'm Satri, and this is Satchamai, and we're the team you're going to encounter tonight. We'll see.
It depends. It's different every time.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
Who was here with us last year? Just raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. And who is this the first time? A few more. Well,
Okay.
welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So the structure of the evening, I can talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Is that Satri will talk. Whatever he talks about, we'll just start. And then at some point he'll stop and he will invite you to come up for questions or comments, or just sometimes people come up and they go, I don't really have anything to say, but I just wanted to come up. So you can do that too. All right? So there's no wrong question. There's no bad question. It's just you. So we welcome you. And by the way, this team over here, we have Anoop, Scott, and Sadas. And they travel with us from the US all over Europe. And when we go to India, they manage all of our AV. So just to make sure everyone knows you are on camera. And if you don't feel that comfortable coming up, just don't, because it will be on Crowdcast. And it is private, it's private. It's on YouTube. Oh, this is the free broadcast, so this is out there. So if you're uncomfortable with being on camera, then I'm just making sure you know that. And then just don't come up here, okay? Okay? Or share it with all your friends, whatever. Okay, it's your turn.
So the first thing I always wish to address is an invitation to look at what got you here. You could say, what is your purpose for being here? I mean, you might be able to blame a friend. But it's really useful why you believed your friend, as kind of to find the thread. Because we know it or not, we're all in a quest for consciousness, if we're conscious of it or not, by being self-aware human beings. When we come to this planet, we bring with us a unique opportunity for us to discover and actualize a truth in ourselves, a quality of being, to bring it into our lives. Unfortunately, the world doesn't recognize that, and we get conditioned by our culture, by our family, by our sex, by our financial status, about what is possible and what is not possible. And then you throw in some fear and self-doubt, and pretty much we lose access to the opportunity of our lives. So I am with you to help you clarify, strengthen, or discover in your own direct experience why you're here. Not just why you're in this room, why you're here. See, this whole question was not clear to me fully and all the way till my 50th year. One night, January 4th, 1998, I stepped out, or I should say I was cast out of my life as an architect, as a husband, as a father, as a person in the community, as a professional, with my wife, who was my partner, who was a professional in her own right, into a domain, into a paradigm, into a state of being where the first question that came to me when this happened was, what is the purpose of this? Why did this happen? What are the principles? I was not doing any yoga, any seeking. I had done that when I was a young man. There was nothing in me that seemed I had to have life any different than the way it was showing up. I had developed some skillfulness in my relationship. She was number 3. By the time I got to number 3, I figured out maybe I have something to do with the problem of my relationship. So I was bringing a certain degree of humility in the recognition of the limitations of myself, even though outwardly I was relatively successful. I had a very troubled son who also kept reminding me of the limitations of my nature and my ability to bring the life I would wish for him into his life. But I wasn't looking for a solution. I didn't think there was anything more to figure out. But when this moment happened, I was thrust into a condition of consciousness that for me was completely inexplicable. It could not be explained. It could not be understood by anything I had known before. All the body of information that I learned in the course of my life, how to be, how to do things, how to be successful, how to fail, how to come out when you get knocked down, all those things were irrelevant in that opening. And I'm sure many of you have had this or some glimpses of this. But I would just say that if I look back, it was my first introduction to reality. And it blew up my life.
That's a nice way to put it.
And anyone who has had awakening, is the nature of the awakening is it's a quality of your whole being thrust out of who you were and your life that you thought defined you, your history, your past, and your possible future. You get thrust out and something inexplicable bursts open in you.
Oh, let's talk about, when he had the awakening, and he's right, it just blew everything out. It was just like there was a husband one day, and then there was no husband the next day. And this just kept going on and on. And this was 1998. Okay, so there wasn't much on, there wasn't Google. That didn't exist. So we're like, how do we find out what happened? There was just, we had to go searching, and it didn't stop. So I think for many people, they'll have the awakening and it'll open up and it'll be there for a while, and then it closes back down. But his never closed back down. So it just like left this little trail of debris behind him.
Life,
No other way to.
what life, you know? I don't need
And we're all
no,
like, what happened?
no compensating structure, no success or recognition. None of that was relevant anymore.
But the one thing I'd like to point out, in all the years he's been teaching and all the people we've met, I've yet to meet anyone that had it quite like he did. Most people just have that opening, and it closes back down, but it leaves them just enough juice to start seeking. And yeah, I think that's a blessing for all of you and your families, because otherwise.
Then the transition takes longer.
Yes, and then at that point you haul your family with you. But in this case, it was just, we were the debris for a while until we all caught up. But
Yeah.
I mean, we've been married, 34 years this year? 35, so I'm still here.
And that's a tribute to the part of her that recognized there was a purpose. She didn't experience the same things I'm experiencing, but she had an intuition that recognized it was true. See, reality, real, and truth are synonymous. They're the same, just two different words for the same principle. And the experience of being in reality is like you're looking through new eyes, like you're experiencing existence from a new perspective. That all the veils of that which has separated you from the reality, from the truth, fall away. And you're in this quality of being that is irrefutable, even to your ego mind, which will, if you do get a glimpse and closes back down, will keep trying to make it into a story. Try to make it into something other than what it is, so that you don't have to feel so bad about it not being there in the same way. And this creates a quality of dejection, anguish, despair, that it's very hard to continue to live as a human being carrying that as your experience. It's almost a wound. Because if you've lived your life in non-real or untruth or some variation of truth or real, and you get a glimpse of something greater, to lose that glimpse means the truth you have will not work. And the life is disrupted. You could say it's a form of quiet grief because you recognize your bondage. Often waking up is the recognition of how you're bound. Certainly that's what it was for me. That's when I saw a darkness in myself I had been spending my whole life avoiding, compensating for, trying not to be that way, trying to be a better human being, a better person. But in that moment of meeting, the universe opened up. And in that moment, I recognized that there was a purpose greater than I could know, because I didn't deserve this. It wasn't a linear event. It was like a freak of nature. It was like a roulette wheel where the ball bounces. It just ended up in my slot that day, that night. And my ego couldn't lay any claim to it. It couldn't say, this is mine. I knew I was hip enough to recognize that part of myself at that point. But I was in awe and wonder and a humility at the recognition of something so much greater than what I had known or thought possible up until that point. It took 3 months of trying to figure this out. I had a very busy architectural practice. I was very active in my community, as was Satsang. There wasn't any urge to leave the world. There wasn't, at this point, no need for anything but just to appreciate that had happened, and then it started to continue to happen. Every weekend or every time I wasn't busy, it's like the universe came in again and again and again. And in my experience, yes, there was darkness revealed in that, but there was extraordinary light and love and truth that kept revealing itself. So after by 3 months, I was pretty clear that whatever had come was purposeful and that it was living me. And in that period of time, a number of things happened, one of which is I began to see how my whole life was a preparation for that moment. That all the things that I did and didn't do, all my failures and all my successes were just beads on a string of this purpose that was living me all along. And the only thing I now knew is that this purpose was living me. And all I wanted to do would be the vessel, the vehicle, the channel for it to live. And so all the other compensating structures of purpose that I had as a human being, to be successful, to be good at it, to be a better person, all that fell away. And this became my purpose. And I discovered some truths that I didn't know before. Because whenever I'd made decisions, I always took hesitancy in terms of what would other people think, or how it would affect other people. But in this case, there was none of that. There was this authority, there was this quality that knew that this was the most real thing there was, and that I needed to organize my life for this because there would be no other purpose but to do that. So I began to simplify my life, back away from unnecessary work, pass on some of my jobs to other architects and to other people who could do it. I backed off from my business agreements, I backed off from my volunteer agreements, and Satsang would have these, and I would have these very interesting conversations about what does this mean in our relationship, in our life.
Okay,
You remember those?
you can move on.
I got it. I met a spiritual teacher through a friend. He so happened to come to America every couple of years at a funky little ashram in an old mining town right near Silver City, Nevada. And I had met his first Western devotee who had converted her property into a small little ashram for him when he would come. I heard about it. I met her. I was quite impressed. She was dressed in sannyasi clothes, orange. She was retired from the gaming industry. Casino industry.
Yes.
So she was willing to take risks. She went to India and found the person who proved to be my teacher, and she was so struck by him, so moved by him, and he was still kind of new. He was still trying to put himself together after his own awakening, and she arranged for him to come to the United States. But I met her one day, and I asked her, why would this happen? What would be the reason why it happened here and didn't happen there and isn't happening everywhere? And she said, it's when the fruit is ripe, it falls. Now this spoke right to me. It just resonated because there had been this sense in the background of my life before my awakening that I was really complete, that I did everything. I was rebellious when I was young. I went into darkness and drugs. I came out of it and recovered myself. I was an artist and an architect and And I worked with delinquent kids and then became an architect and then snow camped and taught myself how to ski and taught myself how to be in the world. And I felt like it was complete. So I believe that we're all in a process of maturation, and we're the ones who can recognize it. You may not know that you are mature. You may not know that your fruit is no longer grasping onto the branch of your separative ego, and that it's losing its hold, and then one night, one day, flat. Something else then remains, not bound by any past or any projected. You're at this can be an example of what it means to live in a direct and immediate relationship with yourself and existence. Many call it the now. But that's just a label. It's the most real of reals. And it's curious, because it's taken me many years, because after those 3 months, I found my teacher, I became his devotee, I went into states of longing and ecstasy. All I wanted to do was be with him. Devotion, the path of love. And I surrendered myself completely. And in the process, I began to be educated experientially about all the subtle worlds that live all around us, that we close ourselves off because of our mind and 5 senses and body. And I began to see the magnificence of what's holding the entire human race so that it can wake up. The recognition that the universe loves me more than I could love myself. And the experience of being found. I didn't know I was lost until I had that experience. And it was irrevocable. It couldn't go away. It wouldn't go away. There was nothing in me anymore, in my human nature, that felt I needed to go back into something into life. I needed to meet something that I hadn't met before. It was this, and that I believe is why it didn't stop for me, is I didn't have a lot of darkness that I hadn't already met by the time I was in my 50th year. So 9 months after my awakening, I went with my teacher to India, and I lived in India as a sannyasi for 6 years. I immersed myself entirely into the culture and to the teachings that experientially showed me that what had happened to me had happened to many, many others throughout history. That all yoga and all traditions are about preparing the human who is questing for this, for that eventual unfoldment. And that the awakening that occurs, that brings us into a direct relationship with that reality, is the beginning. It's a doorway into a possibility that takes us beyond what we know ourselves as human beings, through planes of consciousness, stages, by which we can become conscious of and then collaborate with, so that when the awakening happens, it doesn't close down, or that if it does, that you can bring it back into life by following certain practices, by having certain intelligent understanding of what it takes to collaborate with this new maturation, this new possibility of being that most of us couldn't believe in or didn't know was there, or if we did, we had just belief or a blind faith of what it might mean, but never feeling we were worthy of it. And in that education, something came together where I was having experiences and I was understanding these experiences. And I would take my intelligent understanding. I'm a Western man, I'm West American, very nuts and bolts, very practical. I'm not a poet. I have a streak of artistic in my nature, but it wasn't my design. I had to learn to find language. I learned just how to speak what this was. Now, what was that? 20 years ago now?
Yes.
21 years
21
ago?
years ago. Whoa.
After living in India 6 months, my teacher started sending me back to the United States. And at first, I didn't want to. I wanted to leave everything behind. I had no interest in coming back to anything. But he started sending me back. And when he sent me back, I began to discover the world is a wonderful place. We live in a paradise. How extraordinary possibilities. And everybody's so caught in their self-created misery that they don't see it. And it's a miracle. As a matter of fact, it's a greater miracle than the heavens, which don't change. Here, it's always changing. This is the place to be. And in that process, I began to see there's a play between ourselves and spirit and ourselves as matter. Ourselves as an individual human ego and ourselves as an awakened, realized being. And that when the awakened, realized being comes into existence, the old ego can be infused with that in a way that transforms the human ego. That actually shifts the fundamental error of human egoing. Separation, fear, demand, expectation, suspicion, distrust, and starts dissolving those structures in the force of its own consciousness, the consciousness of spirit. And in this process, matter, when you come back from this, gets lifted up and takes on the whole new characteristics by the awakened spirit. So literally, the body awakens, the emotions clarify, the heart expands, the mind can know without thinking. It grows empty and quiet like a receptor that can know directly, and so does the heart, and so does the body. And they become these purified instruments by which to know and experience life, and to also to be able to recognize how to live in life in this new way. The purpose of awakening is to continue to awaken. If you follow that path, you'll start lifting up all those in your life that are connected to you, and they will become more awake. And if you stay true to your purpose, then they will start awakening people as well. And they will start awakening other people, so that we're in a matrix. And if one of us wakes up and knows that our purpose is to fully awaken and to bring it back into our life, then we can lift the entire heritage that we were born into. We can change the paradigm, the assumptions of all those who we know and are connected to. We can bring forward a greater, more authentic, immediate, loving, true, clear relationship with all those that we're connected to. We begin to heal our relationship with them and their relationship with us and their relationship with others that they're related to. The human species is one great, big, giant relationship. We're a species, like squirrel or deer or elephant or whale. And we actually share a consciousness. We share a design, a possibility that is unique on this planet because we have this self-awareness. And with self-awareness comes two things. Not just a body, not just a vital emotional nature, not just intellectual capacity or mental capacity, but a quality of intelligence or intuition. The capacity to take action other than what nature programmed for us, thereby the ability to choose to be different, to not take actions that perpetuate old negative patterns, and to start taking new actions that break us out of our old way of being. We discover our power, our authority, our capacity to come into existence as no other species is possible. As a matter of fact, this species, our species, is the fruit of the 4.5 billion year evolutionary process that brought us into existence. That the umbilical cord that we carry is to Mother Earth herself, and to the will to be, and the purpose of that will to be that Mother Earth carried, to bring in a manifestation of the possibilities of life. And we're the fruit of that random trial and error process, and we carry it in our DNA, in our bodies. So each of us are the leading edge of the evolutionary purpose that's been going on since this planet started supporting life. Each of us carries the capacity to make something real that hasn't been real before. Our ability to attend to some things, to give attention to some things and take our attention away from other things, is the power inherent in that authority. And what we attend to, we make more real. If we attend to those things that are aligned with our purpose becomes more real for us because we start making decisions and choices and taking action based on that purpose. But if we give our attention to our limitations, to our negativity, to our petty dissatisfaction, we impact them equally. We give them a reality. And one thing about giving them reality is after a while, you give your power away where you become the victim of that which you gave your reality to. Your negativity runs you rather than you creating it. We get overtaken by what we've empowered. Of course, this is dynamics is now modern psychology and relationship very clearly, where we give our power away to the other in a codependent structure that keeps us locked into the same dissatisfaction and complaint, struggle and effort and darkness. So we'll learn to pull out of it, to get something else to attend to, a different set of ways of being in the world than the ones we were programmed with. And we discover that we can either create a new relationship or leave that relationship and create a new relationship. We discover our power to come into existence in new ways. So spiritual awakening is the most precious of all precious, because when we wake up out of our conditioning, we get a taste of the reality of what we are. And the reality of what we are gives us the power to change our lives, to change our relations, to change the entire paradigm that we were born into as limited human beings. So, when I came back 6 years after I had been in India, my teacher gave me a name and said, start a spiritual center in California. And I had an name, and he says, you're ready, I believe you're done, but you are. And that path. So I didn't believe him. But I went and I started teaching, and I discovered that when I was with people, something was coming through me to them. It was extremely blissful. It was full of love and desire to help and to empower and to straighten. It was just like this extraordinary rush that was different than my meditations, different than my samadhis. But I was also recognizing it wasn't me, that I was a channel for that. And I didn't lay claim to some great power that came to me. I recognized that I was simply a piece of plumbing. that could come into the world for those who were open for it. That began to teach me the true relationship to the gift of awakening. To always be in awe and humility and service to the gift that has come. To let that purpose find its expression through you to others and empower them to find their own expression. The most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. To be an instrument for the universe to play its song for those who could hear it, so that perhaps they too could become an instrument for the same song. So that's our possibility. And that's what I'm here for. And that's why we travel to all these places, even though I don't need to go anywhere. It's just I'm one of those reluctant tourists. But everywhere I go is home. And no matter how different, it's still, I haven't gone anywhere. So there's no strain, no stress. I just go into one moment to the next. But what I'm doing, and this wasn't my decision, but rather a recognition of what was happening, is I'm on a pilgrimage. I'm on a pilgrimage because people have forgotten to take pilgrimages. I am the temple coming to you, because you have forgotten to go to the temple, as the Hindus would say. And thereby renew that archetypal quest to connect to something greater that's been diminished by our secular, scientific, mental, intellect, overdeveloped education, to recover, to not lose that, but to bring this more archetypal, this more primal, this more fundamental quality of being into that. So, I think that's pretty much it. We built in, I stayed in that work for I had an incubation period. After another 3 years, it shifted again. I came to another whole place, and suddenly I got what my teacher had already told me, that it was done. There was nothing else. And that now that I was the reality inhabiting this form, and there's a person here, and there's a divinity here, and they simultaneously exist. And there's no problem, there's no conflict. I can be fully human and fully divine, and I can hang out in Starbucks and watch a Netflix movie and learn all kinds of new things because I was really capable technologically. And we've created an organization, Satsang and myself.
With a lot of help.
And with a lot of help, and we're still creating it, and with a lot more help, to create a new paradigm for living, a new Dharma, a new way to organize our lives that isn't the same as the past where you left the world behind, but something where you, for a period of time, leave the world behind, but you come back and you lift your world up. So it's a process, and we have a whole series of programs that we do. We have the education, where basically understanding, this is a piece of the educating. It's also a little demonstration for yourself, for you to see if this is something that works for you, that resonates for you. And in this, we start having a languaging about, you could say it's the scaffolding or the trellis that supports your own awakening. That allows it to not just grow horizontally, but to actually climb into different states of consciousness, empowering you to come into your life more and more fully in ways that you couldn't have imagined, except through that structure of support. And why is the structure there? Because in order to expand our awakening, we have to meet what's unawakened.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. We want
That's
awakening.
the heavy lifting.
That's the heavy lifting. So why do you need the scaffolding? Because you have to have something to hang on to when you start meeting those unawakened parts of yourself.
Yeah.
You have to be able to hang on to the purpose while you're in the midst of it. Because otherwise you'd give up. Otherwise you think you weren't good enough. Otherwise you think divine took it away because you were bad. You have to hang on to the understanding of the teaching in order to endure calmly. By the way, endure calmly is one of the t-shirts they make of people who are work with me. So, because the more we can stay with that that is unawakened, by the reason it's unawakened is we don't want to be with it. We don't want to know it. We don't want to feel it. Is to be able to meet that unawakened part and hold on, endure calmly, and it dissolves in our presence. It dissolves in our ability to stay with it sufficiently long to lose the authority we unwittingly empowered. And why is that? Because anything we don't want to experience is a resistance. And that resistance takes energy. And the more we resist something, we make it more real. And you cannot get freedom if you keep empowering your resistance. Duh, right? Duh. Self-evident. So the process of awakening is to become less unawakened through the process of meeting that in us which we didn't know how to be with. Expanding our ability to be with it with ourselves gives us greater capacity to be real, to be awake, to be connected in existence. The secret is not to be overtaken by our apparent defeats, where we feel we're the victim. But if we do feel the defeat, the structure of the teachings is that to pick yourself back up. If you're on a battlefield and you get knocked down, the art of succeeding in the battle is to stand back up. And the quality of what we are, it's eternal. It never dies. It has unbounded strength, not through our ego, individual ego, but in its very essence, which gives us the ability to be with things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to be with. So we're not doing this alone. We're doing this because the universe wants to wake up as us. The universe cannot wake up any other way except through each of us. It does not have its own self-aware consciousness. It has purpose, but it is an unwitting instrument of that purpose. It does not have self-awareness. Only human beings, only through the suffering of being a separative ego, born into ignorance, and trying to evolve and come out of that ignorance, can we actually have that ability to be a channel for the purpose of the universe to wake up. So this is the context. So the teachings is the first part. The second part are the programs. We've got an intensive in a couple of days here in Copenhagen. And what happens in the intensive is you'll sit in a room in a controlled environment for 6 hours or so, and your ego will show up. Your limitations, your bondage, the darkness, the things you didn't want to be with will show up. But it'll show up in the space of the energy of the reality. And as it shows up, it gets burned in the fire of the freedom and the truth that will be in the room. And it will allow you to go back in your life a little lighter, a little more expanded, a little less locked into your belief structures or your stories about yourself or what you can do and what you can't do. And the more you get exposed to this, it's kind of a continuous process of purging out and bringing forward what's still asleep, enduring it calmly because you won't want to be with it then either. And then in the process, discover a new way to be that's stronger, more alive, more real, more in relationship, more connected. And if you do this enough, you'll love to do it. It'll be all you want to do, is meet the next layer of fear, next layer of negativity, next layer of unconsciousness, next layer of what's still hidden in me. Because there'll be this expanding capacity that the truth in you will be fed by as you come into a more and more awakened relationship with existence. That's the trainings. Now, in the last few years, we're starting to give people opportunities to take what they get from that process and start sharing it with others. Start conducting meditations. Start doing what I call inquiry groups or study groups, where we take some of the teachings. I work with the Bhagavad Gita, and I work with a book by the Indian teacher Sri Aurobindo called the Mother Book. And I use these as the frame of the languaging of the inquiry to begin to reveal how common our issues are, not only among humanity, but throughout history. And that our taking it personal is one of our biggest errors, that we think our misery, our selfishness, our ignorance, our negativity is just ours. That we all share, all of us, human beings, carry the burden of coming out of the conditioning we were born into, some more, some less. The more awake we are, the more we carry the possibility of transforming the very foundation of that negativity and resistance to existence and obscurity that has affected mankind for thousands of years, not only in us, not only in our parents, not only in our ancestors, but through the whole thread of collective consciousness, creating a different possibility for being. When you start doing programs, you too discover what I discovered when I started working in the spiritual center. The only difference is you don't have to be fully realized. That if you can feel the sense, you can have a sense of the presence, if you can have a sense of the current of the purpose, if you can feel that or sense it, that means it's already found you. And that means you just have to learn to attend to it, to take actions aligned with it, not take actions that aren't aligned with it. You learn to true yourself. You learn to empty yourself through the process of serving others, through the process of being useful. So this is the most mature aspect of our work that we're also doing now. Okay, there you have it. This is what we do. Some of you who are with me already know the process. It takes years. This is not instant. Bondage took thousands and thousands of lifetimes to become bondage. It's not going to just like that be gone. But it is going to be something you can begin to incrementally undo in yourselves, and each time there will be shifts when you cross a certain threshold of undoing. Okay. All right, now we're at that part where you get to come forward and ask questions. So, as such, Mike said, it's really an opportunity. There's no requirements. If no one comes forward, I will fill up the space.
Talking.
I will not stop talking. Once the universe has found a voice, it doesn't show up unless there's a necessity. So I invite you to come forward and bring forward whatever is there for you, whatever your nature of your own inquiry, your own awakening, your own journey, or questions about what this opportunity might be for you, or any other kind of maybe even unspoken thing in you that wishes you to come forward. Because I'll know what it is, even if you don't.
Oh, okay.
Come forward. Over here.
Right over there.
Yeah. And so just say your name into the room.
My name is Carl.
Carl, welcome.
Yeah. And
Yeah, this is real, right? This is what real feels like.
well, I just want to thank you,
Okay.
first of all, and I feel a deep recognition, and I have seen your face before in Tiruvannamalai,
Yeah.
but
Oh, talks.
Did you attend any of the programs?
no, but I've seen you in
Posters,
Tiruvannamalai.
right.
Like
And
Tasty
then
Cafe.
around.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just the first time I meet you, and that's the
All right,
recognition
Carl. Nice meeting you.
as a space.
Makes a difference when it can be acknowledged both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the recognition of you, it's just the recognition of you.
That's right. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's
And,
the person, and there's what the person carries.
Yeah.
There's who we are, and there's what we are. What's in the room now is the what.
I just, no, I feel like I'm you 30 years ago.
Ah.
I've just returned from India after 5 years with my guru, and I've been here for 4 weeks, and I'm thinking, what's going on? So it's such a joy
I got
to
it.
see you.
All right, so it's
And-
like re-entry. How do I do this?
Yes, I'm re-entering
That's a good
the atmosphere, and I just saw your face on Facebook 2 hours ago, and I thought there's a face, so I came. And I don't have a question, really.
It's
Unless
okay. Yeah, you
I
don't,
just want.
you're just here with this. So I've got
So
some, I have some things to say
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
That there's a way of bringing this into our life that empowers and strengthens what has come to us, and there's a way to bring this into our life which diminishes it.
Mm.
So it's good to discover those two different ways. Now, I know that when I re-entered into the world, I took my teacher's instructions, but when 3 years later I was on my own, I went into a discovery process, because there's no handbook on how to do what you're about ready to do. It's usually a trial and error process, and hopefully the errors do not exceed the opportunity of bringing this into the world. So part of my work is I work with many people who have already been teachers, who are about to become teachers, who have been teachers for 15, 20 years, as a way of giving a frame to understand the nature of the subtlety and the complexity of bringing your awakened, developed spiritual self into life without ego, without investment in outcome, without all the usual things ego will do when you start impacting other people with the force that comes through you. And the dangers of that becoming identified with how you're impacting people and taking it personally and getting lost in that response. So this is a place where I would wish to empower you to be able to get the right information about the nature of where you're going. Because as soon as we come back, we're going to draw to the world from out of the world. As soon as we come out of the transcendence, as soon as we come out of the awareness of the truth of Arunachala and Shiva and all of that, and we start bringing it into the world, we're bringing a very powerful transformation into the content of our personhood. And it's going to push all the hidden desires, hidden issues, hidden structures to the surface through the people you start working with. I mean, I wouldn't wish this on
Big
anybody.
lessons.
This is not anything you would want to do. Because which way, if you can see it or not, it's coming. Because as soon as you take a stand as truth in existence, it's the old adage, it's foolish to see in the world of the blind. So you start taking on the darkness, because everybody's coming to the light to have their darkness healed. That's why they're pulled to teachers. That's why they're pulled to awakened beings, is do it for me. That's the first stage of the spiritual journey, is the childhood phase, where they're looking for mommy or daddy to do it for me, because you don't know you have to do this for yourself. So if you get stuck into that deal, then you get stuck with a lot of devotees who won't change, who won't grow, because they want to be next to you.
We've been through that phase.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything he's talking about,
Yeah.
he's had the experience.
Yeah. I wish there had been warning labels.
No,
but-
there's no such thing. So Carl, are you going back to Tiru? Are you back home for, you're finished, your teacher said go teach, or?
I've been back for 4 weeks. I'm back to find out what to do, but I've started teaching. I feel I have no choice
Yeah.
and no other purpose anymore. So
Okay, I understand. And that's probably why you're here, at least to hear this much
Yeah.
of what I had to say. But I also invite you to join in with the work, because you'll be able to see someone who's been doing this for 21 years, 15 years. What's the nature? Because it'll start showing up with everyone that comes forward. The secret is empowering people to come to their own reality. And what does that look like? What may that look like? And the other side of the secret, because if you're from Terra of Anomaly, what's strong in you is truth, is love is needed. Love is that which holds somebody while truth does the surgery. If you do surgery without anesthesia, it's very painful. And people may...
Found that out too.
Yeah, found that out. But if you bring it with a quality of patience and love and acceptance, then the surgery is empowering. So there are other things that are about the art of being useful. And that's the context to hold it in. How can I serve? How can I be more useful? And the discovery of that is the discovery of your individual purpose as a person, carrying this awakened quality into the world, into the planet. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Very inspiring. Many years ago, I had a kind of, 15 years ago, I had an awakening where I found out that behind thoughts and mind, and there's a big, big, big emptiness. Was my feeling. And when I was in touch with that, I felt gratitude and love. And
That's the real.
Yeah.
That's called realization. You get a taste of the real.
And since then, it comes and goes and comes. And when I'm here, I could.
You're right there.
I could sit in my house, and it's so wonderful to hear you. My question is, because what you said about, I feel like, I said it in my own words, I feel very much that a lot of times something else is taking over. It's like, and the feeling with is kind of also is gratitude and love and freedom. But the little me wants to take control so much, and it's like I won't let go. I can come here, I can sit, and I feel I'm there. But this battle, I think you. How did you avoid this battle? You just, and then you were there.
Well, I think it's because I met the darkness very young
Okay.
in my addiction.
Oh, yeah.
And then after I discovered my addiction, it was rage, that I had rage, I inherited rage. And yeah, there you go. And those are very, very tight knots.
Yeah.
Their structure of rage is a knot that keeps us, even in our awakened self, like it's tied us into the human structure.
Yeah.
So it's my experience, that's probably what you carry. And anybody who carries, there can be also trauma, where you get overtaken by circumstances in your life or by environmental structures or parents, and it creates this clench in the ego, which is a no. It's a not no. And no is the source of ego. That means no to resistance, no to being, no to hope, no to happiness, no to love. That's what that no keeps in place, so that even when love comes, we can't be with it.
Yeah.
So meeting that as a place in your body, as a location in your physical body, is how you can take, because you've got a very developed consciousness. Because when you can hold the contraction as a location in your body, then not to go into the story of it, not to feed it, but to hold space for it to be experienced out.
Know what you mean?
Then it's a matter of layers, layers and layers and layers. And they may come up as the need to express energy. So the way I managed the physical expression of releasing rage was to take a baseball bat and beat an old chair. And the rage comes up, you take a baseball bat and beat the old chair, and you assign whoever you're raging at to the chair, right? Chair doesn't care. You may have to get a new chair after a while, but or a new baseball bat. But what I found is that by releasing the physical component of it, it loses the full authority that keeps it stuck.
I have been going a bit in that direction.
Okay, then
I do shaking exercises every.
That's the beginning, yeah,
For
that's the
example.
beginning. But the nature of giving it a physical dynamic expression will bring up the primal no. Yeah, and I mean, you know, whatever it is, it's not only the no, but then we don't want to be in that place, so we cover it up. We avoid, we become afraid of experiencing a life, that part of ourselves. So we start creating barriers to it. And so we have to dissolve those barriers as well, not just the core structure.
Yes.
You'll see, the more you work with it, the more freedom you'll have.
Okay.
It won't take long, but it will take some time.
Okay.
And being in this energy will help you.
Yeah.
So we just named it. Now, if you could find that in your body right now, I can help you with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, again, can you identify? So put yourself,
I can.
it's there in the throat, right there.
Yeah.
Is it like strangling?
I just make it
Okay,
better.
let's go.
Yeah.
Does it have a sound? What's the- Okay, so,
Like
yeah. Is it like you're being strangled, or there's something you can't say?
strangle.
Strangled. That's the trauma.
Something.
Strangling.
Attacking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm
Now,
helpless.
helpless,
Yes.
powerless, about ready to
Yeah.
be thrust out of existence.
To trust it.
Not it's an existential threat.
Yep.
You could die.
Yep.
Yeah. But at an energetic level, we lost the camera again.
Oops, this happens.
At an energetic level, it's consciousness, imagining it could cease to exist. It's consciousness, imagining it cease to exist. So feeling this will start releasing energy associated with that diminishment over which you have no.
I don't.
Yeah, okay, so we got it. So let's just focus on that. Yeah, there's a lot there. There's grief, there's sadness, there's shock. Keep going. Let it go deeper in your body. Yeah, there you go. You're breathing it out. Good, yes. Yes, expel it. Let it. Okay, good. That's it. You're doing it. That's the right action. Keep doing it.
I'm warm now. Warm.
Warm. Yeah. Heat's it's starting to move. Energy's starting to move. I want you to put your attention on your heart. Put your attention on your heart right now while you're. Can you feel that anguish and grief?
Yeah, sorrow.
Sorrow.
Yeah, angry. Yeah, anguish. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what that was hiding. The anger always hides grief or sorrow.
Yeah. I know.
Okay. That's the first layer. That's how you work with it. bit by bit.
Mhm.
You keep bringing it into your body because it's trying. You're wanting to. These things lock down the whole rest of our body. When we start releasing it, the other parts of our body
And how
start.
it moves.
Yes, you're feeling it
And to,
all the way down to second chakra.
yeah.
The power, your personal Atara. You're in your Ahara. I got it. Yeah.
And then to my lower legs also.
Okay. Then your whole body is ready to do this work. Okay. You're going to do the intensive?
No, unfortunately not. No. Yeah.
That's how you do it. You just keep stepping into opportunities to keep moving that which is still, because this is a start, but you have to get a momentum to break the habit of the old way. You have to create new actions aligned with truth that get strong enough to neutralize the old habits that aren't.
I've been thinking a lot about having a plan.
Good.
Actually, a precise plan for what to for exercise and so on.
Okay, then
I've
go.
just retired, so I have time.
All right, then you've got freedom. Well, I mean, this is that. So that's what to do. Make a plan, communicate what your plan would be, and do that. And it, my experience is that when people can use this as their track, the art of it is to participate. Now, there's a lot of ways to do so. You can do this online remotely, which is not expensive. You don't have to travel. I can't necessarily work with you individually like that. But we're also having, we're going to be through Europe. We're going to Ireland, and then we're going to Gothenburg in Sweden, and then we're doing a 9-day
In Sweden.
in Sweden as well. So there's this whole period of opportunities that are where I'm physically available.
I saw you in Rishikesh, actually.
Yes, okay, so very good, yeah.
Oh, you were in Rishikesh?
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's why you
Alright.
look familiar.
yeah. Yes, that's
I
right.
was like,
Yeah.
you look so familiar, but I couldn't. So what's
But-
your name? What's-
Erling,
Pardon?
Erling,
Alan?
Erling. Earl in English.
Earl?
Earl.
Okay,
My
I
English
get it.
friends say
I know.
Earl.
Okay, so you noticed the difference Rishikesh made?
Yeah,
So, then you came here, there was a greater openness. Now this happened. So that's how you do this over time.
Actually, my second chakra, I thought I was getting old, so I'm
Yeah.
a bit, maybe I should take some pills sometime, then I thought. But something happened there.
Rishikesh.
Yeah.
Yep, right. Rishikesh is good for the second chakra. You suddenly get horny for everything, yeah.
I'll not talk more about it, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we awaken the dead parts, right? And all parts of the sleep, right? That could also be quite troublesome.
But it's actually the same thing happening now.
Yeah.
It's kind of
That's the channel is
this
opening up.
and
Yeah.
then down to the
Okay,
legs, yeah.
all right, that's the body enjoying reality coming in and filling it.
Yeah.
So it's coming more fully in existence. What happens is the human component you can enjoy but not need or want or attribute it to others. And it becomes, you start opening all the channels from your awareness, your heart, your belly, your second chakra, your first chakra. They start becoming means by which the reality can come into the world more freely, without an agenda, without a need or a requirement. So that's perfect.
So
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Very good.
Yes.
Hello,
Hello, what's your name?
my name is Trine, or Trine,
Trina.
and thank you very much. It has been very inspiring. My sister brought me here today.
Yeah, see, got drugged along. Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
I have a question for you. I have been meditating for more than 20 years. Have I had a daily practice? Because I've been very confused and very uncomfortable in my life. And around 5 years ago, I went to Turkey to a retreat, and I think I had maybe an awakening. I had a very strong experience of bliss, of connection, and I saw the world. I was in nature in a way that I had never seen it before.
That was an awakening moment. Yes.
And to me, this has been a wound. This has been very painful.
Because you couldn't hold on to it.
No, and I had to kind of let go. I think, I went to that place because I went silent, and I went extremely aware. So I was moving slowly. I couldn't move fast. For days I was really in the moment, and the food tasted amazing and everything. And then this experience came. And I feel I could go back there if I took the time and if I took the space to go there.
You can see how we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah,
Right.
and in the same place, and in the same time, I am in a place in my life. I've been doing a lot of different things that wasn't me, because I wanted recognition and all that kind of stuff. And now I really know what I want with my life.
And what is it you really want to?
I want to inspire people through the positive history or story to act responsibly. In a
That's the same
responsible
thing I
way.
would want
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So this
Once
is
we get human beings to act responsibly, we've solved the problem of the planet, right?
and this is a strong urge in me, and I'm really happy, and I feel blessed, and I know what I want to do now.
That's the purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
so
feel the
I
purpose.
really feel I have a strong purpose, and
Yes.
this is really nice. So I'm. My question is, in a way, I feel that I would like to go to India for 2 months and be in the bliss that I have experienced. And also I have a teenage son and a grown-up daughter and a husband and obligations and stuff like that. And I also really want to act on my purpose, because I'm not that young any longer. So, this is my big question in my life, that I would like to have really time to be with nature, just to be, silent and quiet, and in the same times I really want to act.
There's both those two tendencies, right?
Yeah.
And they're actually both two expressions. They're actually two parts of the walking of the journey. The part that connects us to our divine nature, to our reality, and the part that brings it into life. Connects to our divine nature, brings it into life. But the balance between the two is very important. And initially, what you want to do is emphasize the spirit. Strengthen it so that what comes to you becomes more familiar, more available, more accessible, and you begin to tap into forces that are larger than yourself, that come to collaborate with you, to allow you to have a greater authority in that state, and then you come back into life, and your life shifts, opportunities open, structures that are still remaining show themselves, and then that which you bring in lifts the quantum of your life that still needs to be lifted, and also gives you the capacity to be more useful. So my experience is that not all awakening experiences are meant to be translated immediately into you doing that purposeful work. It needs to be held for some time, because the purpose is actually a current. And when we hold the current, it builds in our system and starts pushing our consciousness into places that makes us, when we come out of it, more capable to be of usefulness, or be a useful instrument, than if we came out earlier. So it's best to strengthen this, come into life, but don't dive into life too long, just long enough to lift some, come back out again, strengthen your purpose. You'll expand higher. As you start undoing the part of your life that's not aligned with your purpose, it will lift. You will come out, you'll for a period of time be diminished. You'll come out, restore yourself, and then go even higher. Come back into your life again, and what is still hidden in your life will also then lift again. You will feel somewhat diminished, but when the next time, you'll even have greater access. There are stages in this journey. It's not enough just to feel a purpose. It's to align with an understanding of how to collaborate with its unfolding in you. And the biggest thing is to hold it initially, to let it build, to let it grow strong, and then inside
without acting,
without any outward expression, just be ordinary in the outer life. So no one knows, because it'll have greater impact in silence, and it will not draw your energy down. So be a secret agent.
But not for too long.
No, I know, but it's very hard because the Rajas and us Westerners, we always want to do something. We're
Yeah,
doers,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
beers.
Yeah.
We have to teach ourselves how to be rather than just, once again, do. Because do exhausts the cumulative energy when we do too much doing versus being. So the principle here is minimize the doing for a period of time. Have opportunities where you discover and explore and expand, but restore your capacity and strengthen it to just be, because ultimately you're just going to be a piece of plumbing. You won't be doing anything. And you want to just be the being for the doing to happen through you, rather than you doing the doing. Then you become a channel for a will bigger, larger than your will. This restraining is what I learned in India. It was because of the humility. I didn't even want to be a teacher. It was only when he forced me to do that I began to discover. But it took me 3 years even then to understand what the opportunity is, and that is just to be empty, open, relaxed, without an agenda, without an outcome, without an expectation. And in that place of freedom, you're useful.
Yeah.
Got it?
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
it's Line Emma.
Line
Emma.
Emma. Well, it sounds like two names.
It is two
It
names.
is two names.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes, 2 names.
yeah.
Okay. All right. What's there for you?
Oh, there was a lot of questions when I sat down there. And I thought it was clear for me which one I should choose when I sat here. But
That's a dangerous expectation.
yeah.
Usually when people come up here, hold the microphone closer to your
Yeah,
mouth. So, it's go into your life. What's there in your life? What's there in your own seeking?
There's a lot of doubt coming
Okay.
up. And there's a lot of not feeling good enough.
Yeah, good.
And there's a lot of going back and forth from being in the heart and being in some kind of fight with reality.
Resistance.
Yeah.
These are really good topics.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good assemblage.
And
The doubt and the resistance and the self-worth are all tied together. Because the source of doubt is we doubt ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. Therefore, we're looking for something to trust because we don't know how to trust ourselves. So, and then with that comes the diminishment. And we have a tendency to give our power away to tell us what to trust or do, but then we find that we lose ourselves when we do that. And then we don't want to do that anymore. And then we become suspicious and doubtful. And this is the inevitable outcome of being a human being on the planet. So it's not personal to you. There's probably everyone in the room has some version of this. And good, you're aware of it.
yeah,
Yes. So what's your purpose?
that's a good question.
Good.
I started to work with addiction, shopaholics. I used to be a shopaholic.
Okay, very good.
And I try to do that now. I'm not sure that's my purpose.
So you're free from the alcohol right now?
It's not alcohol, it's shopping.
Oh, shopping.
Yeah,
Much worse.
yeah. Shopaholic, yeah.
It's socially acceptable
Yeah.
and a significant portion of the economy of the world.
I don't shop, but there's deeper layers of the addiction I
Yes, that's
still
right.
struggle with.
That's great.
Yeah.
You're right. Have you had an awakening experience other than knowing you were an addict?
Working with my own addiction, I got in contact with a deep sense of being whole and being loved.
That was it.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's what's given you so much presence right now. Okay, so the nature of the purpose, it always brings with it a longing and aspiration. A longing for a greater truth, a longing for a greater love. It's a longing, those are one of the symptoms. And if we have a longing to be into existence, more real, more whole, more useful, that longing is the evidence of the purpose in your life. So follow your longing, follow your aspiration, and to keep remembering that longing and aspiration in terms of how to live your life. It'll define the purpose. It'll tell you what action to take, because when you take the action that's aligned with it, the longing will be fulfilled. The aspiration will be met in those moments. And there will be a sense of drinking from one well to another well to another well, being refreshed again and again every time we take actions. And then this issue of doubt and self-worth will fall away as irrelevant. The heart, by the way, which is your strongest instrument right now, I know your mind's completely clear and your heart is open, and that you're already, and I can feel it even in your third chakra, there is this capacity for action out of selfless giving. You're already being prepared as an instrument. The universe is already looking to use you to serve the world. So the art of this is the right balance, where you don't give away too much, where you hold enough so you nurture yourself and you strengthen your own connection, and let that grow in you, and then your utility will be greater. Ultimately, everyone's in addiction. Suffering is a condition of addiction, attachment, repetition and habit, fear and desire. This is the loop of the ego. It's always a repetitive pattern of obsessive behavior that has no basis in fulfillment or truth. That's what addiction is. You keep doing the same thing and not getting any benefit, but you don't know what to do but the same thing. So even when it loses its benefit, you're still doing it, just to keep yourself thinking you're alive. But in fact, you're already dead, stumbling along like a zombie, looking to feed off of other people's living energy. It's a painful place to find yourself in, and it's one of the expressions of the diminishment that comes with awakening often, where we recognize the condition of our bondage, how we keep doing things that we know already do not serve us or the world, and coming out of that is the work. And that's my work. My work is to strengthen the part of the person that can recover its purpose and empower them to diminish the hold of these addictions and past patterns over their lives. So it's an act of empowerment, just like for you, as you came out of your own addiction, the divine came in, brought something to you. So just go forward with that.
Thank you.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, during periods of darkness, I come again and again to strengthen the virtue and to diminish the error, the ego. And that's what I do in my work, is to empower the virtue you already are, the truth that you already are, and strengthen your ability to meet the error that we all carry. Not like it's a diminishment, but into an empowering opportunity for you to come more fully into your life. Because it's so hard to get overtaken by the negative story. So easy to get overtaken by the negative story. Easy to lose your own authority in the habit of your diminishment, the habit of your distrust and suspicion, the habit of your not good enough, or your fear, or your need, and your inability to be with that. So strengthening what it is you are is what you're doing by being in this room. And inevitably, it will bring forward that which you couldn't be with. So when you leave tonight and tomorrow, there may be something that will show itself to you because you can see it now. Either in your virtue or in your non-virtue. If you pay attention, every moment of your life is that opportunity, but it's hard to keep your attention at that level. But your heart will tell you if something's true or not true, just as your discernment can recognize something's true or not true, and your body can tell you if something's true or not true. If you start listening to these things, you can then be more present in your life in terms of the opportunity that life is always bringing you to show you what separates you from your eternal reality, from the truth of what you are, both in yourself and where you've given your power away to the world around you, the environment, the people, the circumstances. So you can pull back what you've given away, let it gather within you enough strength. Meet the parts of yourself that you haven't yet been able to come to peace with. So the practice that I invite people to do is to meditate 45 minutes twice a day. Now let me speak about what I mean by meditation. Sit silent and still. No matter what your mind is.
Comfortably.
Yes, you can be comfortable.
Yeah.
You can be on a patio. You can be in the woods. You can be
On a recliner.
on a recliner. It's best not to do it on your bed because it might pull you into sleep. But do it in a chair or a couch or a recliner and just sit there and be present with whatever arises. Be it in your body, be it in your mind. Just become the witness of the unfolding of you sitting in that moment. It could be very uncomfortable if you haven't learned how to do this. So maybe you have to learn to build up to 45 minutes. Start with 10 minutes and then 15 minutes and then 20 minutes, but you have to do it twice a day. And I always say 45 minutes because the difference between 22 and a half minutes and 45 minutes is that the extra 22 minutes is like money in the bank. The quality of the meditative consciousness being accumulated. So that the next time you meditate, it's easier and it gets deeper. And this way you keep accumulating something of the meditative consciousness in your life. And what it does is it starts giving you more access to what meditates. Yeah, what is it meditates? You're paying attention to that which meditates. Or imagines it's not, right? It sits there witnessing your mind not shutting up, or trying to pull yourself back from that thought or this thought, or the emotional mood that's coming up as you sit there, trying to pull yourself back to being sitting in your chair and being present with what arises. Now, that's why we add the component of breath. Because if you're aware of your breath, you pull your attention away from your mind, you pull attention away from your moods, and you're putting your attention on breathing. And breath is a very powerful action that we're not doing. The stopping of which would be the fastest way to be extinct versus thirst or starvation. So breath is actually a very powerful action that's going on, and we're not paying attention to it. When we start paying attention to it, we start getting in touch with the rhythm of our own existence. It's a real kind of magical thing. And when you get in touch with the rhythm of your own existence, then that quality of your attention starts paying attention to that which is in touch with the rhythm of its own existence, empowering it, which strengthens the awareness's ability to be in touch with that. So it's a self-feeding loop. So the art of meditation is to be silent, outwardly, still as you can be, and simple. That is, it's not a job. It's not something to do. It's really something to just be. Like a flower in the field following the sun as it moves through the sky. Just imagine coming to the place where you could sit in one place and you would be perfectly at peace for a whole day. Now, would not that be cool? Then you've mastered meditation. I have mastered meditation, and so when I sit in a room of people, the opportunity, it's easier to meditate. The vibrational frequency of meditation becomes accessible to people who maybe never meditated before. In the early days when I'd have a 9-day retreat where we sit for 2 hours 3 times a day, never meditated before, people would find they could meditate. And there were other people who thought they were accomplished meditators who had a real horrible time thinking they knew how to meditate because they had all these little tricks and gimmicks and techniques and mantras that were getting in the way. Meditation is a condition of consciousness that actually broadcasts a quality of being to everyone around it. So meditating 45 minutes twice a day is the one thing I invite people to make part of a discipline, which means a discipline is something you do other than what you would usually do. And you assert that in your life twice a day. It will neutralize the tendency of the rest of your life to keep you stuck in the same old way of being. I can't tell you how many people I hear 2 or 3 years later, they haven't participated at all, but they've been meditating 45 minutes, and they write me these letters out of the blue. They say, my God, I want to thank you. My whole life has changed just by following 45 minutes twice a day. It's very effective. It's very powerful. Perhaps more so because I'm alive in a body, but it is also a very powerful technique on its own. All right, how are we doing? How much time do we have?
It's up to you.
Do we have a time limit on our podcast?
6 hours.
6 hours. I'm not going to last that long. So, someone
more
else would like to
questions?
come
Yeah.
forward. Yes.
Yeah, good. It's not true. A quarter to we do meditation.
Okay. Hi,
I'm Tina.
Tina.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, it's to do with healing,
Okay.
and I feel like it seems like for me, like I have to do my own healing, start with that, and then feels like I have to heal my father and then my mother.
Start with your own healing.
Yeah, but I don't know, but it feels like it's like
It's right.
that.
It's correct. But you don't do it to fix mom and dad.
No,
You
it
do
just
it-
comes like this.
Yeah.
I feel
We all have that job. We
all
come
have,
in to correct the error that our parents are
Yeah.
carrying, so that it doesn't perpetuate
Yeah.
further into life. So it's the correct job, but our capacity to do that is what we have to be realistic about.
yeah,
And
okay.
yeah, and so first thing we have to do is maybe put that on a shelf,
Okay.
and then focus on your own experience. So have you had awakening experience?
Yes, many.
Many.
Yeah.
How long ago did it start?
It was like 10 years ago or something, and after a Vipassana meditation, I had like the other girl
Yes.
said the same.
Yeah, same.
It was for 1.5 days,
Mhm.
and I was just awake, and I was sleeping, you know, I was awake all the time, you know,
Yes.
and the smelling and everything was just so magical, and it kept on for a long time after this also.
Okay.
And I've had, and then the last year was also, lot of things happening, a lot of cleansing, a lot of really high vibration, and then going down again, and high vibrations really for a long, long time. So it's been really, really intense for me, really.
Do you have a teacher?
I have a guru, yes. I
Yes,
have a
okay,
teacher,
good.
yeah.
Well, that helps. And the main thing is to find what it is that takes you out of that state.
Yeah.
It's usually going to be some resistance,
Mm.
some attachment, some structure of fear or desire that hooks you into life in a way that puts you back into the old pattern of your human need, want, fear.
Yeah, for
doubt.
me, it's anxiety. It
Okay.
comes some anxiety that is really, really bad. And I
Okay.
mean, it's like,
Okay, so it's fear.
yeah, it's fear.
And the anxiety, when you experience anxiety, what does it say? Does it say something like, it's too much, I can't do this? What's the words that come with it?
Well, the last time it was actually feeling my father and his anxiety towards his mother, you know, and
Okay.
I went into that.
Okay, so
And
then
I
that,
felt, I could feel it. I was him. I
yes,
mean,
yes, and you were healing it at that moment.
I was healing it, yes,
Yeah,
but
but
it
you
was
were
really,
holding it.
I got a migraine and I was sick for 6 days after that. I was really, it was not really a
No.
nice thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
I don't
mean,
really know if I have to go into that. I mean, this is really
how do you find a
hardcore.
right relationship? Well, you're probably at a place now where you are healing the
Yes.
structures, not only of your parents, but perhaps of other people around you.
Yes, I know.
All right,
yeah.
so you probably what you want to do is start pulling in your aura.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens is the tendency is expanded awareness, but you're unaware that you've created a kind of a field of alertness that's picking up other people's energy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you want to do, and then that energy sits there until we're not paying attention, and it slips in, and you
Yeah.
start picking on the quality of the
Yeah.
atmosphere. Okay, so there's a very simple set of techniques that helps you
Okay.
come back into your own center. You ready to
Okay.
hear that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. And those of you in the room who may have this tendency, you can also listen to this. It's a very simple technique. It's imagine a hollow tube connected to your perineum, your first chakra.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then imagine that tube going all the way down to the center of the earth. 5,000 something kilometers. It's way far
Yeah.
down there.
Imagine the center of the earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so to the center of the earth. Okay, and then on to there's 2 stages to it. So you can just relax, put yourself in the chair, put your arms, yeah, that's it. And then do that first step. You can do that in the room right now. Feet on the floor, relax in your body. Are you connected to the center? You tell me when you are. Hollow? Okay, now take any unwanted energy that's in your body right now and drain it out this grounding cord all the way down, flushing it all the way down to the center of the earth. Starting with the top of your head, going down to your shoulders, your back, your chest, your arms, your stomach, your hips, your sexual organs, your thighs, your knees, all the way down, all that energy draining down this grounding cord to the center of the earth. Just take a few minutes and empty yourself out. Be aware of your breath. And now when you're breathing, breathe in. You could say clean air or clean energy. And then exhale it down the grounding cord as if to flush out your whole body of the unwanted energy. Okay. Tell me when you have a sense of that. Okay. Now be aware of your aura. Now your aura is quite large, so I want you to start pulling it in just in imagination. It's like a membrane. Above you, around you, behind you, below you. Just bring it in until it's close to your body, snug to your body. And in the process, anything in that aura gets pushed down the grounding cord, draining out your aura.
I don't understand.
So you take the aura, you have energy, you've picked up in it. As you bring it in, let that energy go that go into your body and down into the grounding cord. Actually, you can actually create a separate grounding cord for the aura if you wish to make it clearer and drain whatever is in there, like a balloon, down that grounding cord. And when you've finished draining it and you pull the cord, the aura in close to your body, as if it's like when you do it, it's like a energetic coat close to your body.
Yeah, I feel it's
Yeah.
changing now. I have it around my body.
Okay, good. Now, bring in your own energy. So you're going to have to intuit what that might be. It's going to come in through the top of your crown. It's going to have a color or a texture, a substance that fits you. It could be golden, it could be yellow, it could be blue, it could be pink, it could be whatever color is your color that resonates for you. Bring it in and let it come into your body to be a soothing substance. It takes all the edginess of the anxiety and heals it on the inside out. And then take that energy as it comes down and direct it also down the grounding cord. And tell me when you're there.
I think now there's a lot of vibration in the body.
Yes. And was there a color?
Yeah, purple.
Purple. Okay. And how do you feel right now in your body?
I feel like I'm vibrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in your own energy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what you do.
Yeah.
And if you train yourself to do that, the subconscious, the psychic, knows to do it more often spontaneously. So you do this every day, maybe a couple of times, just now and then, just to make sure you're in your own energy. And you'll neutralize this diffuse anxiety in your life. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. If you begin to understand that you can heal yourself not through psychology, not through the mind, not through a lot of historical bringing up of trauma, but through consciousness itself as an energetic substance in your own experience. The two complement each other because the mind has to learn to let go of its old ways. So it's good to understand this, but the energetic component can make an immediate difference in your relationship with you being in your body. So it's helpful when you get overtaken by things like anxiety or overwhelm or moments where you find yourself not able to be with whatever's arising for you in your circumstances or in that moment of your life. Learning how to find the silence and stillness within your own body is what allows you to start living in a direct, immediate relationship with the divine reality and its purpose that lives us. Everything I do is to teach this. Once you discover these very simple things, you can back away from all this other doingness associated with spirituality. You can move from being a seeker to a finder of what's already there. I assure you, it's already there. You just don't know how to know it, or recognize it, or be with it. So simple, silent, still, willing to let go. You don't need to have trust, just have faith. Faith and purpose are very related. When things are seen to be purposeful, then you automatically have faith. And if you have faith, then everything is purposeful. Faith comes from the soul. Trust comes from the emotional nature. Belief comes from the mind. Believing or not believing is mental. Trusting or not trusting is emotional. Faith, however, is outside of the whole dimension. It arises from our very being because it knows its purpose, and it has faith that what's arising is an opportunity for that purpose to expand in our life. Yes. Perfect. Welcome. What's your name?
First, Elisa,
Elisa.
and I've been here last year.
Ah,
I
when I did
met
the programs in
Yeah,
Copenhagen?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and I asked you last year something about letting go, which is a huge issue in my life.
It's a big work in consciousness, is letting
Yes.
go.
And it's
How are you doing on letting go?
well, I don't know, ups and downs, I guess.
Okay. Is it letting
I
go
noticed-
of expectations? Letting,
Yes,
yes.
and this feeling of inadequacy, of not
Good enough.
good enough. Yes.
Letting go of the
And-
feeling of anxiety
Yeah.
requires inquiry.
Yes.
Because you can't let go of anxiety, but you can let go when you find the source of the anxiety.
Mhm.
Because you have to go deeper than the anxiety, the nature of it. Now, it could be just like the other person that came up, that you pick up anxiety from people around you.
Mm.
And it can be your own anxiety, which is associated with our self-worth,
Yeah.
and the thought that maybe we're not good enough or not doing it right, and we're going to be found out, and so on and so forth. So these are essential existential stresses that every human being carries, especially in a world where there's so many expectations put on
Yes.
us.
Yes.
And then we take on these expectations, and we're always questioning if we're doing it right or doing it good enough. You have to get down to the source of that anxiety enough to see where you have a position.
Yeah.
To discover the nature of what you're anxious of and where are you standing? What is the point of view that you're in that's allowing this anxiety to arise?
Yeah.
For example, the not good enough. So if you want to get somewhere, the thing to do is, in this particular case, to get to the source of the anxiety, is to get to know in your body the experience of not being good enough. Can you, for you, if the anxiety, is there a relationship between not being good enough and anxiety for you?
Sometimes it's like a knot
Good.
in my
That's
my
exactly
stomach.
how it shows up.
Yeah.
A knot in our
Yeah.
third chakra.
And sometimes it's like hurting me,
Yes. Yeah.
and like being almost like physical, very hard.
Hard
Yeah.
contraction.
Yeah, a
Good.
contraction.
Good.
Yes.
So you've located it.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
sometimes I'm massaging it, sometimes I'm trying, to dissolve it somehow.
Yeah, yes, yes. So then this is where you can use the technique I just gave. Or you create a
This
hollow
with the
grounding, hollow tube,
Uh-huh.
and then you take that tension that's locked up and keep sending it down the grounding cord. Because you're keeping it in place unwittingly. It's the nature about these kinds of things is that it's so distinct, we have a tendency to keep attending to it. But what the idea here is to shift it in terms of releasing it back into earth as a beginning of our stepping back or getting off, our trying to fix it, trying to make it be different. You know, it's like we worry because we think that makes us safe.
Yeah.
The more you worry, the more safe you think you are. But it's funny how it is. It works just the opposite. It makes you feel more unsafe. So you think worrying is useful action. So we think we have to worry.
Yeah.
So that whole structure can't be handled from the thing that's the source of the worry. It has to be handled from a different part of ourselves. So if you can identify that in your belly, that sensation, you can do it right now. Just take a minute. Hollow tube to the center of the earth. Anybody else who's got anxiety in their gut, this is the time to do it. We'll just do it as a group heal. Okay, become aware of it. And it's a whirling energy. Whichever direction it whirs, just notice. It could be feel a knot like a clench. You can't really drain it as a clench because that's like a difficult bowel movement. You rather want to dissolve it some as an energetic structure. So like let it unravel. Feel it as like an energetic structure. And then when it's unraveled enough, start directing the unraveled parts down the grounding cord to the center of the earth. 5,200 kilometers, whatever it is. Way down there. Tell me when you feel that's happening. Good, perfect. Let's let that breath go down the grounding cord. And so let go all the expectations, real or unreal, that you're carrying, all the guilt and the doubt, questions of self-worth, just drain it all down as an energetic flush. And tell me when you got that far.
Somehow I think that.
Yes. Now bring in some kind of soothing energy. It can be like a honey. It could be light of any color. It could have a substance that comes and flushes out your whole system. Any unwanted attention. Send it all the way down the grounding cord. Quiet mind, open heart, relaxed body. Now, how's your third chakra? How's that area? The ball still there?
It's more quiet.
More quiet. It takes us out of our mind. It takes us out of the old way that we want to deal with something, where we'd use a technique or some method. This is a technique or method, but it doesn't use the mind. It's a complete action in consciousness that can actually have a real effect on these structures that are locked up into our system. Because every emotion, every thought is actually energy. And that if we can dissolve the component of the thought, dissolve the component of the emotional condition or the contraction into energy, it will move. Okay.
Gives this feeling of self-acceptance.
Yes, that's right. And a relaxation with
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so do this
Mm.
as a practice for every day for a while. You can use it multiple times in the day. Whenever you're feeling this anxiety coming up, take a break, step back from whatever you're doing, and just take 3, 4, 5 minutes doing this. And you'll start recovering your own authority over the part of you that slips into this position. And that's how you really get off it. Stop doing it. Stop believing it. Stop feeding it by trying to make it go away. If you can be with it, the being with it dissolves it in itself. Ultimately, you won't need to do this technique. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so here we are, 9 o'clock, 2 hours. So there's sort of a natural rhythm in a group, in a room, when the energy comes in, and the natural energy is for us to sit silent and still for 10 minutes as our completion. And we'll just see whatever is there for you. We have a program tomorrow night here, 7 o'clock. Those of you who would like to join us again. It'll be its own unique, each one of these is, because there's always an immediacy in the creation of our time together. So thank you. So we're going to finish with a silent sitting. Just be aware of your breath. You're sitting in a chair. And can we manage the lights? And we'll just sit for 5 minutes. Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.
Namaste.